When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
This episode is brought to you by Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels and music are made for each other. They share a rhythm in the craft of making something timeless, while being a part of legendary nights. From backyard jams to sold-out arenas, there's a song in every toast. Please drink responsibly. Responsibility.org. Jack Daniels and Old No. 7 are registered trademarks. Tennessee whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Jack Daniel Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Candice Lim.
And I'm Kate Lindsay. And you're listening to ICYMI.
In case you missed it.
Slate's podcast about internet culture. And Candice, have I ever told you that I have met Taylor Swift?
No. Tell me more.
Sometimes I forget too because it was such a blip, but
Yeah.
I went to Reputation, but I went to Reputation as press. And so we got to do a little meet and greet beforehand. And my coworker and I, we went together. We actually decided to, well, we asked, we were like, there was this meme that was kind of going around, or like a viral series of photos, because Taylor would do these meet and greets. And in one case, a couple had gotten engaged during the meet and greet, and there were these like photos capturing Taylor's reaction, and it was like kind of among Swifties going viral because it was just like a silly little moment. So this had just happened, and me and my coworker were like, would you want to recreate that with us? And she was down. Like, she was like, okay, yeah, let's go do it. She took us back to the meet and greet area. We recreated it. I have all the photos, and it was just like a cute little thing, and I had posted them. But you'll notice on my Instagram, they're all gone.
Oh.
And here's why.
Oh.
Because my coworker is a woman, and we weren't thinking about this at all when we did the stunt. We were just like, oh, funny, let's just recreate this bit with Taylor Swift.
Right.
When we posted it, it went bananas.
Oh.
And it ended up fueling part of this Gaylor conspiracy theory, or the theory that Taylor Swift is closeted, is secretly gay.
Uh-huh.
And people were taking the photo and pointing at how Taylor Swift looked happier that two women were getting engaged than the heterosexual couple that had gotten engaged in the original pictures.
Uh-huh.
And it went up. My roommate sent it to me on TikTok. She was like, do you see this? Like, they're dissecting your photos.
Oh my God.
And it was so weird to be part of it because it was just meant to be a joke. Not really. We didn't even think about what we would accidentally like open up. And it's like, I don't know about Taylor Swift's sexuality, but if she looks more excited about us, it's because she was acting. It's because she was recreating a bit. But I had to wipe the photos because I didn't want any part in it. But it's weird. I forget about this constantly, that like not only did I meet her, but I was in part of the lore of the canon of Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Did you have to make like a statement, or do people like come up to you and say like, you're in the photo? Oh my God.
My old roommate texted me a TikTok where the photo was in it. And the photo had originally gone viral on Twitter. And so I knew it was getting attention, but I didn't realize it was getting attention outside of just like new photo of Taylor Swift.
Okay.
But it was.
Wow. No, that's crazy. Being a part of like a pop star, a superstar, a famous person's lore is very weird. I'm not going to say I was part of her lore, but like, do you remember when she did Tiny Desk for NPR?
Absolutely. And you worked at NPR.
I did.
Are you saying that you and Taylor Swift were also in the same room?
Yes, it is true. I was at Taylor Swift's Tiny Desk. She performed the Lover songs. It was crazy. It was maybe like 100, 200 of us. They told us like 24 hours beforehand, wristbands, security, all this stuff. I think the craziest thing about it was that I've actually never been to like a Taylor Swift concert, like, in a stadium. I never went to Eras or anything like that. But I realized like, oh my God, I'm hearing like Taylor's raw vocals because they don't amplify your mics in the actual room. That was crazy. That was crazy. And that was a crazy experience for like the few of us to indulge in. So, I guess I'm a Swiftie.
No, that's really special.
Yeah.
Candice, that might actually be better than my meeting. I don't know. You basically got like a private Taylor Swift concert, but like
A little
you've
bit.
gotten the concert. I got the meme recreation. Surely that means we are getting invites to this wedding of her and Travis Kelce, because the reason we are talking about Taylor Swift at all right now is because of her recent engagement.
Yes. And here's the thing. A lot of people excited about Taylor's engagement. Some people not as much. And so in today's episode, we're taking a closer look at a subsect of the Swiftie fandom, the Gaylors, and their reaction to Taylor Swift's engagement.
But first, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get the full story on the Gaylor fandom and clear up some viral misinformation.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
This episode is brought to you by Saks Fifth Avenue. Saks Fifth Avenue makes it easy to get creative with your personal style and find the best arrivals for fall. I love going through Saks.com because it is so easy to find new arrivals from my favorite designers, and I get a lot of inspiration for my personal style. With fall coming up, I think it's time for reinvention. I think it's time for a wardrobe refresh. So I've been going on Saks.com because I have my eye on a few Jenny Kane sweaters, and thank God they have them all in stock. But that's my experience with Saks.com. There's so much more to explore based on your personal style and what you're looking for. So this fall, whether you're trying out the latest fashion trends or curating a closet that stands the test of time, Saks has you covered. Whether it's a date night, a vacation, a special occasion, or just lounging in style, Saks helps you find the perfect look for every occasion. If you want shopping to be fun and easy, then head to Saks Fifth Avenue for inspiring ways to elevate your personal style every day.
Hey there! If you love our podcast, then you should consider subscribing to Slate Plus. You'll immediately unlock bonus episodes and get access to ad-free listening across all your favorite Slate podcasts, including bi-weekly bonus episodes of our show. And now would be a particularly good time to do that because we are announcing our next book club pick. Should I do a little drum roll? It is Doppelganger, A Trip into the Mirror World by Naomi Klein. And I almost said Naomi Wolf, which is understandable because the book is all about how Naomi Klein is frequently mistaken for feminist turned conspiracy theorist Naomi Wolf. And she dives into that experience in this book. We're going to dive in with her and then talk all about it on Slate Plus. So subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking try free at the top of our show page or visit slate.com/ICYMI Plus to get access wherever you listen.
And we're back. Joining us on the show today is an internet culture reporter who writes the newsletter Spitfire News. It's Kat Tenbarge. Hello, Kat.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We're so glad to have you here for what I would describe as kind of a summit because
Yes.
The moment this news broke, it was all hands on deck. And let's just break down the facts first of why we're here. On August 26th, Taylor Swift posted, I think it's something like, it's definitely like her most liked Instagram post ever, which is her announcement. It is a collab post with Travis Kelce, and it is captioned, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married." Dynamite emoji. And I mean, it's all the shots you would think. It's like the same type of carousel that appears of like people who you forgot about from high school, and then suddenly you're seeing them get married and have kids on your feed. That's what this was, except for this kind of felt for a lot of fans. I mean, it was monumental. It was literally the DNC was trying to fundraise off of it for me. Like there was no part of culture that was untouched.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to this? Like, are you a Swiftie?
So I always say, like, as a, 28-year-old white woman who grew up in Ohio, you're born a Swiftie by default.
You can't escape.
You can't escape. Your whole life you grow up surrounded by Taylor Swift. So in a lot of ways, yes. And I do listen to Taylor Swift a lot. I went to the Eras tour.
Nice.
And I found out about the engagement because one of my best friends texted, Taylor is engaged.
Yeah.
That's real.
As if she's like our cousin or something.
Right.
And
yeah,
so,
no last names, like, we know.
Exactly. So I saw it immediately and I wasn't surprised, and I think everything sort of fell into place exactly like how you described. Like I couldn't see it happening any other way.
Yeah. And people were, TikTok was like, I wouldn't even say unusable because I did consume it all, but like it was every video. Like I said, the DNC was emailing me about it. Everyone had their reactions. Some people were crying out of happiness. Some people were perhaps crying out of unhappiness because there's a particular subset of the Swiftie fan base that drew a lot of attention after this announcement was made. And that is the Gaylors, which are the people. Well, why don't you, for those unfamiliar, maybe just give us a rundown. Who are the Gaylors? How many of them? Where do they walk among us?
Yes, Gaylors absolutely walk among us. So a Gaylor can refer to a spectrum of people. On one end of the spectrum, you have like people who consider themselves to be Gaylors, who join together in online spaces that are about Gaylor, like the Gaylor subreddit is the prime example of that. And it can also include people who just have speculated that maybe Taylor Swift is not heterosexual in the past. And that is the distinction where I think it actually encapsulates so many more people than we realize. Because having grown up a Swiftie and being friends with mostly Swifties, like people talked about this over the past decade plus all the time. So it's not even that niche or that taboo within the broader Swift fandom, but there's this subset of Gaylors for whom the term was named, who gather in these online spaces and talk about their oftentimes very in-depth theories that Taylor Swift is a gay woman. Her relationships with men are not real. They are beards, which is like an old Hollywood term. When gay celebrities who are closeted will pretend to be in relationships with opposite sex partners. And like Gaylors over the past few years have really exploded as a community. You see it at the same time that Taylor Swift explodes, generally speaking, as her career, which was already one of the biggest pop stars in the world, as that somehow takes on like a new stratospheric level of fame. Gaylors go from like kind of a more niche online thing, like After Ellen comment sections and Tumblr blogs, to like the subreddit goes from literally like under 10,000 members to something like over like 500,000 members, or like just like there's this exponential growth in the amount of people online talking about and identifying as Gaylors.
I would love to ask when all of us first encountered the term Gaylor or encountered the theories. I mean, first off, one of the biggest parts of Gaylor lore is that in 2014, TMZ posted these photos of Taylor possibly kissing model Karlie Kloss at a concert for the 1975. In retrospect, that's kind of hilarious because Taylor ends up dating Matty Healy, the frontman of 1975. Anyway, I remember seeing like a Google Doc PowerPoint that was trying to map why Reputation was all about Karlie Kloss possibly having this like illicit relationship with Taylor. And I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of believed it. I'm not going to lie. I kind of believed it. I feel like the way that the Gaylor community really takes these eggs that aren't even eggs and turns them into chickens. I'm fascinated and I'm impressed. But yeah, when did you guys first encounter Gaylor lore?
Well, I feel like similarly, it was around 2014 when Gaylor kind of went mainstream and you started seeing like traditional media, whether it's TMZ or like kind of like you would see in The Cut and places like that. They would write people would write articles about Gaylor, and they were always like kind of leaning into the believability of it and the plausibility of this Karlie Kloss-Taylor Swift relationship. And at the time, in 2014, I was in high school on Tumblr already believing in like 9 million gay conspiracies. So, of course, I just automatically believed it. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, I don't actually think Karlie and Taylor are kissing at that 1975 concert. But I will say, like, when you read a lot of Gaylor conspiracy or just theory in general, like, you do start to wonder. You do start to question things. And every once in a while, I'll listen to a song and I'll be like, I wonder if this is about Karlie Kloss. I get, like, we'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah, I mean, so my relationship with Taylor Swift has always been, similarly, I wasn't in Ohio, but I was in Pennsylvania, which for all intents and purposes is the same. My first exposure to Gaylor, I think, yes, I know the Karlie Kloss rumors, but I never put much stock in them. But something I was just remembering as you were talking, because I used to work at an entertainment-based pop culture website, and we would cover Taylor Swift a lot, and we were not to cover Gaylor's stuff because we wanted to have a good relationship with Miss Tree Payne, Taylor Swift's publicist.
Oh.
So I kind of knew it as like, okay, stay away from that. But the way that of course, I feel like this is the biggest Gaylor moment, aside from, like, she almost, or maybe people don't know, kisses Karlie Kloss at that 1975 concert. And then they're kind of like going up and down. But then I would say, like, the big moment when suddenly the spotlight was on them again is now, when they're having this sort of supposed crash out about Taylor's engagement to Travis Kelce. Like, here are some comments on Reddit that were then shared across Twitter, allegedly. So one of them is borderline disgusted for so many reasons. Another is, I still think they are bearding, which is something you mentioned. And I guess have decided to go full-blown lavender marriage. And then this one's wild. Oh, wow, the day has finally come. I hope this means she's getting married to Zoe, or already is, which I believe is referencing Zoe Kravitz.
Yes.
And then they go, I mean, I guess not legally, but it must mean they're stepping up their relationship and potentially considering kids. But Kat, you mentioned, so you wrote a piece about this for your newsletter. And it's a really interesting contribution to this discourse because pretty much the mainstream reaction pushback to this, the Gaylors, was like, look how crazy they are. But one thing you mentioned in your piece that has now made me side-eye all of this is that there were people going in there and kind of faking crazy reactions just so they could screenshot them and post them around. Why would people do that?
It does kind of turn the whole thing on its head because there are some of these examples that went viral where it's like, they could still be real, like real Gaylors, but I don't think they are because the more you know about Reddit, the more you can pick up on these things. And like when you create a brand new account on Reddit and you don't change the username, it's like word hyphen word bunch of numbers. And some of the posts that went the most viral were from these accounts that had just been created. Wow. So that to me makes me think that a lot of it was kind of a setup. And it has to do with this sort of strain of stan culture that is like so inside baseball that the average person who isn't familiar with stan communities wouldn't ever see this coming. But it's like, within Swiftie fandom, which is so massive and encompasses so many different types of people. And even Gaylor itself is by no means a monolith. And you have like these examples that to me read similarly to things that I've seen posted in the Gaylor subreddit regularly. But then other parts of Gaylor are much less like emotionally invested or conspiratorial. A lot of people within Gaylor, it's not that deep. And like they aren't gonna like cry about this. Like they just are like kind of curious, as I think a lot of people are. And so the reason why someone would like fake a Gaylor crash out is because now there's this anti-Gaylor corner of the fandom that hates Gaylor and like wants Gaylor to go away. And I think a big reason for that is that you see this increasingly within stan culture. It's this desire to protect the celebrities, the object of the standing, to protect their reputation and to do so by like harassing and snuffing out any sort of criticism. And we know that Swifties do this because we all know like what happens to people who dare to write like a critical review of anything that Taylor Swift does. But you even see this within the fandom.
Yeah.
There's like backlash and infighting within Swifties because they're like, oh, you're part of the fandom, but you're making Taylor look bad. And there's a homophobia to this because the idea is like, if you imply that Taylor is queer, then that could be bad for her. That could, you know, be bad for her reputation. And there's also kind of this possessive, like, we don't think Taylor is comfortable with this.
Yeah.
So we're defending her from you guys. But it always, as it always does within stan communities, it devolves into just harassment.
Yeah.
And now you're like outing vulnerable people and doxing people for these like thought crimes.
This is really interesting because what you're saying is that there is a faction within the Swifties who are fans of Taylor Swift who are anti-Gaylor. It's like truly like inside community infighting.
Inception.
Yep.
Exactly, which is like kind of crazy because you would think that someone like Taylor Swift would represent a type of unity. I mean, one part of just like her ability to attract so many fans is that she's so poster board, just like white canvas. You really can project anything onto her. And the thing is, you would think that that would unify so many people, but then you have this where, first of all, like the subreddit we're talking about, it's our Gaylor Swift. It went private 24 hours after Taylor announced she was engaged because there was just a lot of activity on there that was not really within the community. It was getting really harassy. And I mean, there's a part that I love in your piece for Spitfire News where you say that, like, some of the jokes about Gaylor are funny, but a lot of the anti-Gaylor discourse, it became punching down. It became harassing queer people, misconstruing what is mainly a fandom community for queer women. So, yeah, like, I don't know. Do you feel like the engagement just became... Did it put like a target on Gaylor's back in a way that they didn't expect? Or in a weird way, was this always coming, you know?
I think it was really coming. And like the Gaylors who I've spoken to about this, like people who... like I've spoken to the moderator of the subreddit. I've spoken to people who are sort of in these communities, and I've spoken to people who are like super sympathetic to Gaylor and are like big observers of the culture. And I think everyone saw this coming, and everyone kind of implicitly knows that the more scrutiny or the more visibility that Gaylor gets, like it's never going to end well because people within this space understand that it's taboo by nature, and they certainly know like how hated this is. And that is not unusual for fandom dynamics. I think fandom communities by nature attract a lot of vulnerable people. They're spaces that throughout fandom history, like the more creative and taboo you get with like shipping culture or like with this, it is like it's in this weird gray area because it's very similar to shipping culture, I would say, like having grown up in gay fandom conspiracy shipping culture. To me, this is just a modern iteration of it. But people have always looked down on and never truly understood like the nuances of what happens in these spaces.
Well, yeah, you mentioned there's kind of this faction of the fandom that is very anti-Gaylor. I believe they're called hetlers. Yeah, for like hetero.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's an R Gaylor. Is there like an R? Like where are those people hanging out? And when did they start to come to the surface?
It's really interesting because it's like back pre-2020, Gaylor was already kind of a big thing if you were very into Taylor Swift. If you were on Tumblr, Taylor Swift famously, like, she was super active on Tumblr in the 2010s, and she would even interact with Gaylor posts. Like, it was almost kind of like everyone knew and it wasn't a big deal at all. It was just kind of, like, fun and silly in there. But in 2020, and when Taylor went into like her whole Eras tour era, and you saw just like this blow up past like what her career had reached before. That's when just everything got more dialed up to 100. The fandom got so much bigger so quickly. You had all of these people flooding in who were not fans of Taylor Swift before, but who all of a sudden were like violently loyal fans of Taylor Swift. You saw a lot more of like this extremism within fandom generally, not just Swifties. But you saw like hetlers is an interesting term because some Gaylors will just refer to anyone who isn't a Gaylor, who is a fan of Taylor Swift as a hetler. But then you do have these like there's a Gaylor snark.
Oh.
So that's like not even Hitler. That is just towards again, it gets even more meta. That is just snark towards a fandom and not really even related to Taylor that much anymore at all.
Yes, it becomes so tertiary and it becomes about the drama itself. Yeah. And there are like Twitter accounts dedicated to like Gaylor quote unquote crash outs. And when you have this content ecosystem built around finding the most extreme examples of Gaylors being quote unquote crazy, then of course there's an incentive to fake it.
Yeah.
And so the Gaylor Swift subreddit has had to go private before. When Folklore came out and then when Midnights came out, both of those albums marked, which I didn't even know about this, but like at the time, these were very tumultuous periods for Gaylor because there was a lot of Gaylor chatter around the song Betty because Taylor Swift sings from like a male perspective about being in a relationship with two women.
Betty, I won't make assumptions about why you switched your homeroom, but I think it's 'cause of me. Betty, one time I was riding on my skateboard when I passed your house. It's like I couldn't breathe.
So there was a lot of Gaylor stuff around that, and then a backlash, and I believe the subreddit had to close at that point. And then when Midnights came out and the song Lavender Haze came out, there was a ton of like speculation and like sort of Gaylor theory that because lavender is a term that's associated with like the lesbian community. The Lavender Menace, and then like lavender, like it can some of the things she was talking about could theoretically refer to like bearding. So like she's done this throughout her discography where we can't actually even know if it's intentional or not. I usually lean toward no, it's probably not intentional, but it's like that sort of gap of like we don't really know. That's what makes Gaylor so compelling.
That's a big point that we can't ignore when we talk about the Gaylors, which is Taylor has incentivized this type of speculation or this idea that she is leaving coded messages.
Yes.
And so it's really hard, I think, to sort of, it feels very purposefully obtuse if you're like all these little literature references and like myth references to like Greek myths, all those are on purpose, and then kind of insist that all the things that like you mentioned, like a hairpin dropping or lavender haze, like all these things that are pretty like they're not that niche, like pretty openly queer related terms. You would have to insist that she means these things, but not this thing feels like short-sighted.
Yeah.
And so there is a part of me that's like, I don't know Taylor's sexuality, but all I will put out there is that if she is putting all this minute detail into Easter eggs in her songs about other things, why would she so kind of almost blatantly leave in all these references to queer things? And I don't know if it's on purpose, but it's at least enough that it's like, well, the Gaylors aren't crazy, because she's incentivized this behavior and is kind of not doing it quietly.
Yeah, I mean, she's been called the ringmaster of fan service. And what is fan service? When you break it down, it is like it's a way of storytelling, but it's also a marketing tactic. And the reason why Taylor Swift is as successful as she is because since she was really young, she mastered this ability to do two things with her songwriting. One, it's autobiographical and it is a treasure hunt. It is clues. It is a mystery that you are, as the listener, supposed to solve. You go back to the very first albums that she released. In the album lyrics booklets, she would like capitalize letters, and when you spell, they would spell out the name of the guy who she was singing about.
I remember those.
So it's like she's been doing this her whole career. And the other thing she's been doing that she does so well is she does exist as this blank slate for you to project upon. And her lyrics are good, but they're also like non-specific enough. They're both incredibly specific and non-specific enough that as the listener, you're like, this song is about me.
Right.
And I've interviewed at least a dozen Taylor Swift fans over the course of my reporting on Taylor Swift who have all said the same thing, which is like, no matter like what demographic I am, even if I have nothing in common with Taylor Swift, when I listen to her music, I'm thinking about myself.
Yeah.
So this is a very potent mixture where if you are a queer woman listening to Taylor Swift, you're like, these songs are talking about being a queer woman. And as a queer woman, when I first listened to Folklore, I didn't think it was Taylor Swift singing about herself being gay. I thought it was me projecting my experiences onto the lyrics.
Yeah.
But it's very easy for that distinction to blur and get lost.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, is Gaylor speculation invasive, and why Taylor Swift can't have it both ways?
Prime delivery is fast. How fast are we talking? We're talking puzzle toys and lick pad delivered so fast you can get this puppy under control fast. We're talking chew toys at your door without really waiting fast. Pee pads, cooling mat, and peg hammer fast and fast. And there's training TREATS faster than you can say sit fast. And now we can all relax and order these matching hoodies to get cozy and cute fast. Fast free delivery. It's on Prime.
Introducing the perfect companion to your morning listening routine. AG1's clinically backed formula is now flavor-packed with 3 new delicious flavors: tropical, berry, and citrus. Start the day on a high note with probiotics that taste like the tropics. Mix it up with micronutrients that taste like berry or citrus. And take it all the way back with the classic AG1 Original with notes of pineapple and vanilla. Do your health a flavor, or 4, with AG1 Next Gen, the daily health drink. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
That's the sound of the fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron and the quiet confidence of ultra-smooth handling. The elevated interior reminds you this is more than an EV. This is electric performance redefined.
Back with Kat Tenbar to talk about the Gaylor fandom. Now, there's a lot to say here. I mean, the first thing is that I'm realizing that Taylor Swift has mastered her fan base to the point where it's like Succession teaching you how to watch Succession. Like, Taylor Swift has taught her fan base how to read her music to the point where, like, the idea of, like, All Too Well is about Jake Gyllenhaal, that's level 1. That's 101. If you can't clear that, you're not graduating. And that's the thing. I sometimes wonder how much of Taylor is strategic, how much of it is organic, and how much of it is her kind of manipulating her fan base, because I did want to talk about one of probably the most overt marketing strategies she had was for the album Lover in 2019.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, how would you describe Lover? Because that includes, like, a lot of songs that were very clearly about internet trolls and the LGBTQ community. And I feel like that was just, like, the perfect catalyst for Gaylors to, like, go off, you know?
Yes. And it's interesting because it's like, unless you look at the Lover promotion through a really cynical lens, it almost has to lend itself to Gaylor. Because the most cynical interpretation of Lover is that Taylor Swift recognized that her fandom and that the general public would respond well to these sort of indicators of, like, I embrace social progress. And that perhaps the easiest way to do that, especially as a celebrity, was to get a bunch of gay celebrities together for a music video and be like, I'm an ally, donate to equality. And that's what she did. And so the cynical reading is like that she's doing this because she knows it'll sell well. If you're not looking at it cynically, if you're looking at it as a true Taylor Swift fan who is not going to hold that against her, you almost have to believe that, like, she's doing it because she feels a special connection to the gay community. And at that point, like, with her, at this point, like, well-established history of Easter eggs and telling fans, like, she literally will say, like, no one has figured out what this song is really about. And she has to do that because she has to keep the guessing game going. But so you put all this together in a pot, and it's like her wig in that music video is the bisexual flag, and she's using bisexual colors, and this is all happening during Pride Month. And oh my God, she performed at Stonewall. Like, what else could it mean?
Right. And the thing about You know, because it's weird, like I know, like not even to be cheeky about eras, but I truly feel like as someone who similarly was a fan of Taylor Swift from being a tween, to look at it broadly, there are like two eras of Taylor. And there is the era when she was online liking Tumblr posts, highlighting letters of the people who she was dating's name and songs, like all this stuff that was very kind of a little messy, a little cheeky, a little out there. And then Reputation comes along and she shuts off. And suddenly, I mean, she literally announces that there will be no explanation, just Reputation. And from that moment on, she has been the most closed off little vault. I used to use another term from her playbook. And so what's weird now, because I'm thinking of when we talk about her Easter eggs, and I completely forgot she did used to like fully say these men's names, because a comment she made when she appeared on Travis Kelce's podcast with his brother, New Heights, is that she talks about Easter eggs, and she talks about how none of her Easter eggs ever relate to her personal life, which in history is not true.
Right.
And she also talks about having to deal with weird rumors. And she even, when it was introducing Midnight, she was doing it like one song at a time. And it might have even been Lavender Haze when she talked about, again, like weird narratives, weird rumors that some people really interpreted as a direct response to Gaylor being like, shut up, like stop doing this. Yeah. But that's, to me, it seems like almost she's reaping what she sowed a little bit and is trying to backtrack now that she's like older and like the biggest she's ever been, and to kind of really like, oh, I've incentivized this. This is something people, you know, queer shipping is a prominent behavior with any type of pop culture, but she has also incentivized it not only with Easter eggs, but like you said, like performing at Stonewall, doing things, like she's aware of this rumor. She played with fire a little bit, and now I think she's trying to do this retroactive, like, no, I've never done that. Respect my privacy.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, I guess we can all, she doesn't owe anyone anything, but again, the behavior is not that out of pocket if you are a Taylor fan and have been from the beginning, because this is what she's been asking you to do up until pretty recently.
Yes. And it's really interesting how those contradictions play out, and the fact that, like, to see the best in her, you have to embrace this dissonance. Because it's like she did the same thing where when she came out with Folklore, she was like, these are fictional stories that I'm talking about. But then, you know, a few albums later, she returns to the exact same symbolism and is like, this was about Maddie Healy the whole time. Right. And you're like, oh, great. It was about Maddie Healy the whole time. And it's also like, I think that Taylor Swift is, like, one of the things that I come back to is I'm like, I think that it's easy to look at her and be like, she's so cold, she's so calculating. But I also think that she is messy and human. Yeah. And so I have a sympathy for her in that it's like she started doing Easter eggs when she was a teenager. And now she's like in her 30s. And so I can see how, like, I think there's a lot of messiness there. I think the problem is, like, within the Swiftie fandom in particular, it's almost like you cannot criticize her. Yeah. So you have to, all that dissonance has to go somewhere. So you direct it at, like, the easiest punching bags, the Gaylors a lot of the time.
I'm going to ask a dumb question and then a serious question. My first one is, do we think that Travis knows about Gaylors?
Oh, for sure. For sure she sat down. I'm picturing him nodding, like, oh.
Like, oh yeah, for sure, babe.
I'm picturing him going like full bro and being like, that would be sweet if you kissed a girl. Like, hey, God. Like, that's literally what I'm picturing.
He's like, I made an AI image of you, actually. That's
he's
crazy.
On the Gaylor subreddit being like, this would be awesome.
Yep.
But I bet he knows. Yeah, I bet he knows.
If he didn't know before, he certainly knows now.
Oh, totally. No, I'll send him the PowerPoint. No problem, bro. I'll loop him in. Anyway, my real question is, I feel like even though Taylor has announced her engagement to a man, I do feel like this has almost inspired instead of de-escalated the Gaylor community. And so the question I do want to ask is Gaylor speculation invasive? Because I think this idea of kind of placing queer identities onto fictional characters, let's say, like fan fiction, that's so been around for so many years. It's accepted in a lot of communities. But the thing is, the difference between writing a queer narrative for someone like Bucky Barnes from the Avengers films is that that's a character. Like, there is a separation between Bucky Barnes and Sebastian Stan, the actor. This is Taylor Swift, the person, the human who walks, like, you know, in real life. And so my question is, like, do we think that it's okay to be a Gaylor or to even just kind of like let the Gaylor community like do their thing?
Let them cook.
Yeah.
I think about this a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that it really varies. Like, there's a huge spectrum of behavior here and a huge spectrum of like individual motivations and like who can be accountable for what. I think back to when I was in like late high school, early college, I was really into the John Locke conspiracy theory, which was...
Yeah, hold on. Break. What's this?
So this was the TV show Sherlock.
Oh.
When Super Hulock was a big thing, I was really into that as well. And there was this massive fandom conspiracy that people still talk about today, much in the same way that they talk about Gaylor, which is just like endless mockery and derision, which is like people really believed that like those two, like Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, their characters on screen were going to end up together. They believed that would really happen. And I did. I was one of those people.
Yeah.
And at that time, like, I look at it and I compare it to Gaylor because I was so driven by like my own state of being closeted.
Yeah.
It was a projection. It was a way to like imagine what it would be like to be like liberated through the lens of these fictional characters, which is what I think a lot of Gaylors are doing through the lens of a real human living, breathing woman.
Right.
And for me, when the show Sherlock ended and there was no big gay moment, I went through this, like, the 5 stages of grief.
Oh, my God.
As did many John Locke believers.
Oh, my God.
As you should.
There was denial.
Yeah.
There was conspiracy.
Yeah.
Anger. Like, bargaining. All of it. But you have to move on because at the end of the day, a fictional narrative does have a definitive beginning and end point. My worry with Gaylor is that I do think there are some people in this community, especially, like, vulnerable young people, who are really investing a lot of, like, their just psychology into this.
Yeah.
And so for them, if they like continue to cling on to the theory and can never disbelieve it and it has like an actual effect on their life, that to me could be problematic. But I also imagine that that's like a pretty fringe case. I think the average Gaylor just like is quietly doing their own thing. And to whatever degree it is invasive, I think it will never be anywhere near the level of invasiveness as like the broader Swiftie fandom, as well as the mainstream media ecosystem that exists around her.
Yeah.
A Gaylor is never going to be, to me, as invasive or problematic as a paparazzi.
Right. Because you mentioned, like, it's no worse to speculate about, in your piece, you mentioned it's no worse to speculate about Taylor being in a queer relationship than in a straight one, which is one people do all the time. But you also mentioned, because, you know, there's the side of this of, like, Taylor has incentivized this. But then there's the other side about why Swiftie might be drawn to this narrative. And you mentioned, like, in your piece, IRL spaces for queer women are dwindling and often inaccessible. And being a Swiftie is one of the most common shared interests people have. And so it is a little bit like, it's, again, maybe not even about her, but about finding a space to be queer. And again, it's like you want to relate to these lyrics that we now learn are ultimately about Travis Kelce, and that sucks. And so it's like, wouldn't it be great to live in a world where these lyrics were about something that actually resonated with the listener? And for many listeners, that would be a queer experience.
Yes. There was one thing I read from a Gaylor once that really stuck with me. That was like, if we're right, if the Gaylor theory is real, then like what Taylor Swift has accomplished through her body of work is like something so historic and so like never been done before, and it's so beautiful and amazing if she would ever come out.
Right.
And that's exactly what we were all saying about John Locke. Like, to the letter.
It goes back to Johnny Locke.
Yeah.
To the letter. So I'm just like, it's so fascinating to me that, like, generationally, there's always kind of this fantasy that, like, one of the biggest, like, most critically acclaimed, most popular singers or TV shows or whatever is, like, secretly this awesome gay thing. And, like, it would be awesome if it was, like, a secret gay thing.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, there's such a understandable desire within that.
I'm glad you're saying this thing about the generational, let's say, desire for more queer role models and leaders. I mean, I have to bring it up. When I heard about the Gaylor subreddit, I went, Larry Stylinson, you're back. First off, any Larrys in the room, just raise your hands. Just raise your hands.
Listen, we have, what is it? Plausible deniability, because this is a podcast. No one has to know.
Yes. Okay, so me. So anyway, Larry Stylinson, the Larrys, this was basically a fan-driven, let's say, conspiracy theory that Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson of One Direction were in some sort of relationship that was more than just friends, more than just bandmates. And their ship name was Larry Stylinson. I mean, the thing is, it was funny, and I think at some point it definitely turned, because after One Direction broke up, you know, Louis started having more conversations with the press about, like, what it really felt like to have the Larry Stylinson attention on him. For example, in 2012, he tweeted, "Larry is the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard." Okay. And then around 2017, so this is like really past like One Direction's time, everyone has solo careers, he talked about the fact that it was really hard to do anything, be next to Harry, talk to him, be seen in a cafe with him without people speculating that they were dating or something was going on. And apparently it got so bad that Zayn, someone who's not even in this situation, he tells the Fader that it was not funny and it continues to be quite hard for them. And he did confirm, like, no secret relationships were going on with any of the band members, which I gotta be honest, it made me feel like, okay, but I felt like you said that because maybe there was. But see,
that sounds like someone covering up for a relationship.
Yeah. It's just like, but the thing is, like, that type of line of thinking, I totally get. And I kind of map onto the Gaylors, because when I think about the fans who were trying to make Larry Stylinson happen, maybe it wasn't that they wanted to be romantically with Harry and Louis. Maybe they wanted to be Harry and Louis. And I think that's like a very real thing and a very real way we project onto celebrities, that even ones that we're not even attracted to. Like, sometimes we just want to be them, but we haven't really made that turn yet. And so we put a lot of our energy into communities that are getting closer and making you feel less alone in that, you know?
Yes. And, like, it's so interesting when you think about and it's often, I think these communities of gay shipping and queer conspiracy, they're typically overwhelmingly women. And it's really interesting looking at the way that two men will be shipped together versus, like, Gaylor. Because with Larry, which there is a lot of crossover, even to this day.
Well, and I literally, as you were talking, I was like, oh my God, and Harry and Taylor dated. Do you think they commiserated? Because it's about the same time. Yeah.
Yes. And there's so much, to this day, there is so much theory about all of that. Yeah. Which is also crazy because I'm like, it's been over a decade. Right. But, but it still persists. And I think that Gaylor is a little texturally different from some of these other gay conspiracies, because I remember, like, well, first of all, there's so much more, like, sexually explicit fan fiction and fan art when it's, like, shipping two men together, which is interesting. But also, there's a lot of there was harassment toward the women that those men were dating.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And you don't really see that from what I've seen in Gaylor. You don't see, like, the sexualization as much, nor do you see the harassment as much. But you do, interestingly enough, see harassment from Swifties toward men that Taylor has dated for other reasons.
For other reasons, right, yeah.
So I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just like, harassment is bad. It's bad when we harass celebrities. It's bad when we harass the women celebrity men are dating. And it's also bad when we harass, like, individual Gaylors. The thing that made me the most sad, like, reporting on this is there are stories of, like, young Gaylors being outed to their families, which is really, really dangerous and, like, not to be trifled with, because, like, people get kicked out of their houses. They become homeless. Like, and people also, there are Gaylors in countries where, like, being gay is illegal and they've been outed and doxxed.
Yeah.
So that's also really dangerous. And so it's like, you should never be, like, disrupting someone's lives in a way that is harmful.
Yeah. And one last thing that I just want to bring up, because it's something I was thinking about as I was doing research for this, is, like, you know, there's the two eras of Taylor, obviously, like the before and after and being guarded, but then there is a way that Taylor herself is very amorphous. Like, she, like you mentioned, the Lover era, her performing at Stonewall, like the Me song and everything, like, that was, like, the safest possible time in, like, recent history to be like, I love gay people. And now we don't have that. Like, she does not give that. And in fact, she is getting married to the quarterback.
Yeah.
And has really embraced this more, like, traditional Americana, like, the half that New Heights interview was about her baking bread.
Right.
And I don't necessarily,
And the sourdough.
The
people being like,
sourdough.
the sourdough and the 60 mean she's performing. I heard this on the radio this morning, guys. That is how bad it's gotten.
Yeah. And
Continue.
it's just like, Taylor has made a point of showing that she changes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and again, and maybe I'm using that cynical viewpoint you were talking about, but I wonder if some of the betrayal that is felt in this moment of like this engagement is not like, oh, she's getting married to a man, I hate that. But like, that's kind of the cherry on top of whatever like this new version of Taylor is, which is so like hetero and bland and cheering on footballers next to Trump supporters. Totally different from the person performing at Stonewall. And maybe both were performative, but like one is harmful.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That is a huge component of all of this. And you even hear this from non-Gaylors. It's bizarre for me as a lifelong Taylor Swift listener to go from the Fearless era where she's literally a teenager and she's like, you'll do bigger things in your life than dating the boy on the football team. And then you go through this whole like empowerment feminism era for years where she's like, I'm not that person anymore. I grew up and I matured and all of these things. And now we're right back to square one. And she says like, this is what I've been singing about my whole life. And I'm like, that's dishonest.
Right. Again, it's like, no, like I was about to quote her. We were there. We remember it all too well.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the show. We want to thank Kat 10 Bars for joining us on today's episode. You can find her newsletter at spitfirenews.com. We'll be back in your feed on Wednesday, so definitely subscribe. That way, you never miss an episode. Leave us a rating and a review in Apple or Spotify and tell your friends about us. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ICYMI_pod, and you can always drop us a note at ICYMI@slate.com.
ICYMI is produced by Vic Whitley-Berry, Candice Lim, and me, Kate Lindsay. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer. Mia Lobel is Slate's executive producer of podcasts, and Hillary Fry is Slate's editor-in-chief. See you online.
Or on the Gaylor subreddit. This episode is brought to you by Saks Fifth Avenue. Saks Fifth Avenue makes it easy to get creative with your personal style and find the best arrivals for fall. I love going through Saks.com because it is so easy to find new arrivals from my favorite designers, and I get a lot of inspiration for my personal style. With fall coming up, I think it's time for reinvention. I think it's time for a wardrobe refresh. So I've been going on Saks.com because I have my eye on a few Jenny Kane sweaters, and thank God they have them all in stock. But that's my experience with Saks.com. There's so much more to explore based on your personal style and what you're looking for. So this fall, whether you're trying out the latest fashion trends or curating a closet that stands the test of time, Saks has you covered. Whether it's a date night, a vacation, a special occasion, or just lounging in style, Saks helps you find the perfect look for every occasion. If you want shopping to be fun and easy, then head to Saks Fifth Avenue for inspiring ways to elevate your personal style every day.
Hi, it's Emily from Slate Money. Are you ready to learn something new this fall? Slate Money is featured in Apple Podcasts' Learn Something New collection this September, and to celebrate, we are offering an extended 2-week free trial of Slate Plus exclusively on Apple Podcasts. As a Slate Plus member, you'll get ad-free listening on every Slate show, get sharp, clear legal analysis on Amicus, smart, funny takes on the zeitgeist from Culture Gabfest, fearless political commentary from Political Gabfest, and, of course, debriefings on the latest economic headlines from Slate Money. That's the podcast I'm on, all uninterrupted. Plus, you'll unlock bonus episodes across Slate podcasts, deeper dives, candid conversations, and more of the content you love. Don't miss out! Try 2 weeks of Slate Plus for free now on Apple Podcasts, or visit slate.com/moneyplus to get access everywhere you listen.